I believe. First of all, let me start by saying I've been kicking around City Hall for a long time. I'm the second president of this. I served in 2005.
Who are you?
My name is Nate Bliss. In fact, I wrote every word of the bylaws of this organization that you're living by now.
Are you still a member?
No. What was that, sir?
Of course not.
No, because I can tell you why, but I'll tell you at the end. There's no institutional memory in City Hall. That's one of the big problems we've dealt with for years here. They have turnover of people, decisions are made, the next group forgets what the other group decided on. During that first year, David Scott, who's in the back, was the first president. He authorized me and the secretary at the time, Art Kitkowski, to do a few things. One of the things that we did is we researched and identified every piece of property west of El Dorado that was over 1 acre in size. And one of the things that we determined, we stumbled across, is this Tropicana property. It's composed of three parcels. That was transferred by plat to the city in 1983 by Avatar. It says very clearly on it, park. Fast forward a little bit, couple months, we formed at that time a kayaking group here called the YGPS, Youth and Geriatric Paddling Society. The number in that grew very rapidly to about 200 names on our distribution list. It got so large, it was an adjunct of the NWNA. It got so large and there were so many people from around the other counties that we withdrew it. Eventually, Kathy Ives would be familiar with the timing of that. We withdrew that because it really was no longer a neighborhood association, but we needed launch sites. There was one at Kismet that later, a few years, was withdrawn. There was the one at Serenia Vista Park. But I asked Steve Pullman, shortly after Hurricane Charlie, the President Joe Stoner's Park, which was unnamed at that time, was covered with Australian pines. They were all knocked down. Art Kitkowski and I went to Pullman at the direction of the association to see if we could do something about developing Joe Stoner's Park. There's a long story behind it, but he said at the time that it was scheduled for 2013. He was a very clever guy, Steve Pullman. He recognized the need and he was able to get that park, and I think it was dedicated in 2008. But at that time, Art and I asked him, what is Tropicana Park? We actually referred to it as Tropicana Waterside Park. And consistent with all the YGPS announcements that go out every time we go there, we've probably been there 50 times over the years. I asked Steve, can we use this as a facility for launching kayaks? He said yes. So we went in there and we dug in that real rough dirt launch ramp. I said to him, when is this scheduled for development? He said it will not be scheduled for development until the year 2020. It was coincidental, that was in 2004. So it was way into the future. There was no money to do any development. There was no anything, no infrastructure, whatever. Sometime later with Steve Pullman, and I say if Steve Pullman were still the Parks and the Recreation Director, that would have appeared on that concept plan. I'm absolutely confident it would have, but you all know the story of Steve. He was removed from his office here a couple of years back. But that's how we got to that point when in late, I think it was 2 years ago, I first saw it a year ago last, I guess it would have been October of 2018. Rick called me, we went down to the Blue Dog. He brought the whole portfolio of all the parks. Because I was expecting and anticipated that there would be a kayaking and rowing center included in Tropicana Park. And when I saw the original concept plans, I said, well, Rick, something's wrong here. So we arranged a meeting with John Zerlag and I was with John this morning, reminded him of this, a year ago last November. And I said, we went to John and we said, look, if we don't do this in Tropicana Park, you're never gonna get it done. Because I had been on another committee and we researched all the available places for launch ramps in the city of Cape Coral. And this is one of those units the city has been terrible about. They're kicking the can down the road all the time. This should have been taken care of 20 years ago, but it wasn't. So I went to John Zerlag, I pointed out the problem to he and Carrie. There were about, 15 people in that meeting, I think, Rick? And they sparked the idea. They didn't have any idea that it was gonna raise this controversy that it did. Everybody in that room was satisfied, gee, that's a good idea. Kayaking center on Tropicana Park. I think everybody was absolutely caught by surprise when that exploded in their face. That's how we got to where we are. Now, I will tell you right now, I am very actively trying to promote that facility on that park. I think there's enough room there to accommodate all of these uses very easily.
How many people in the kayak group?
I think our list right now, I think we're about 200 names on a distribution list. We'll commonly get anywhere from 6 to 20 boats out every Friday.
Where are they gonna park?
Where you gonna park?
Where are they gonna park their cars?
What about the boats? Yeah.
What about tax dollars?
Look, I'm just a messenger. You guys deal with those. I'm not representing the city here. I'm just telling you how we got to this point. If I was gonna park, I'd park in the parking lot. There's plenty of spaces.
We moved here to live on the water. With our boats.